All right. Welcome everybody to today's event. You are here for the CalTAP webinar on the Calvet Home Loans program. Today is April 6th, 2023. All right. So what we'll do today, we'll begin with just a quick overview of the CalTAP, what the program is all about, how we work with veterans, and we'll also talk about some common websites that we think you should be familiar with as veterans here in California. After that, you will hear from your local interagency network coordinator. He's going to talk to you quickly about, what they do with how they work with veterans across the state. And then we will hear from Brad Pedersen. Brad Pedersen is the program representative for the Calvet Home Loans. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about the program and, if you're in the market right now, tell you about some great opportunities for you, as well as some programs that are outside of the State Department that could possibly help you out too. Once we're done with that, we will have a questions and answers session where you can ask any questions that you have for any one of the panelists. One thing I do want to mention is that the chat feature is going to be shut down for you guys today. That's because I have my colleague Sean, who will be putting resources in the chat for you. And so because we're going to be flooding it with resources, we don't want your questions to be drowned out with those resources. So if you do have questions and you want to answer them right away, feel free to use the Q&A feature. By using that, if any one of the panelists can get to your questions beforehand, they will. If not, we will use that to facilitate the questions and answers portion at the end of the webinar. So with that, well, let's go ahead and move on. I mentioned earlier, my name is Michael Cisneros. I'm a training coordinator with the California Department of Veteran Affairs. I've been with CalTAP for, about, I think going on 2.5 years, almost 3 years. Well, actually 3 years now, 3.5 years. And so happy to be here, happy to work with veterans. I'm a veteran myself. I've worked in the school system also for a long time, so I'm happy to be working with Cuyamaca College. And hope you guys take something away from this webinar. So what is CalTAP? CalTAP is a transition assistance program that's designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras to their earned state and federal benefits, as well as provide continuous assistance and support as their needs change over time. So what we've done in CalTAP is we've developed different pathways that help veterans navigate those benefits and services that are available to them. Those pathways are an entrepreneurship pathway. We have an employment pathway, an education pathway, and then there's a general core curriculum pathway of services and benefits that don't fit into the topics that I just mentioned. We do have a service provider pathway. We don't really mention that too much, but if you have anybody within your community or family members that do want to work with veterans, feel free to send them to our website to check out some of that curriculum. Basically just information on how to work with veterans, be familiar with veteran culture, and that sort of stuff. This is your veterans resource book. So your veterans resource book, I like to say, is like gold for veterans. So everything that we discussed today when it comes to benefits and services, it's especially the Calvet home loans and the stuff that I will talk about here in the overview. You can find information on that stuff in this book. You'll find information about the benefit, eligibility requirements. If there's any documents that need to be turned in for that benefit, they'll let you know exactly what documents need to be turned in and where you need to submit them. So we are posting a link for a PDF copy of this book in the chat right now. You also received reminder emails last night and today that also have this book, a link to this book in there. If this was a live presentation, you guys would each have a hard copy sitting in front of you as well. But since we are doing it virtually, we're sending out the link. If you do want a live copy, we definitely recommend you reaching out to your county veteran service office. They should have books there that you can keep for yourself. It is a free book too. So how do you use CalTAP online? If you go to our website, calvet.ca.gov, you can find the CalTAP banner right there in the middle of the screen. When you click on that, it's going to take you to our pathways page. Our pathways page, you'll find the pathways that I mentioned earlier. Before I move on, I do want to bring your attention to that archives link down at the bottom. So when COVID happened, because we couldn't travel to our DoD installations or college campuses, we ended up putting on webinars. That's where this all started. And we've recorded all those webinars and we've posted the PowerPoints there on our website. So if you click on that archives link, it's going to take you to a page that has every single webinar that we've conducted over the last 3 years, along with a link to download the PowerPoint. So if you want resources on financial literacy, if you want resources on claims and compensation, or you want to look at some of the other education webinars we put up, you can definitely scroll through those and grab any of those resources you need. All the presenters that we worked with for those webinars should still be available. Grab the resources, grab the phone numbers, grab the email addresses, and use them when you need them. So let's go back to using CalTAP online. If you were to click on any one of these pathways, for this example, we'll say the core curriculum pathway. You're taken to a modules page that looks like this. Here in the core curriculum pathway, you'll see modules that focus on the VA healthcare system, claims and compensation. There's a financial literacy one down at the bottom. But if you're just kind of curious about what your California benefits are, you can always click on Module 5. Module 5 will break it down for you with a PDF that you could download for yourself, or it will break it down into you based off of the different benefits that are available. So what are those benefits? Well, the main one, the first one, and one of the main ones that we want to bring up is going to be your local interagency network coordinator. So we'll hear from Lance soon. He's going to talk to you about this position. But the links are there to be kind of like the liaison between, the veteran and their community, and either the federal or state VA departments, and also, organizations that are outside of those departments that can still help out those veterans in particular regions. So I won't step on his toes too much about what the program's all about, but definitely a great resource that's offered through Calvet. These are also California specific benefits. The college tuition fee waiver, that's a fee waiver that's given from Calvet to our veterans that helps their dependents go to school. So it's a college tuition fee waiver for your child dependents. Basically, if you have a disability rating between 0 and 100, and your child dependent stays underneath a certain income level, they can go to any state college for free. So any UC, CSU, or California Community College, free of cost. So a big benefit basically there, so that the veteran can actually not stress about sending their children to school, and they can also use their own benefits to go to school as well. We also have a program that makes it easier to identify as a veteran here in California. So now you can actually have the word veteran printed on your driver's license. Just makes it so that you don't have to carry around your DD Form 214 in your back pocket anymore. That's sensitive information that nobody wants to lose. And then we have a motor vehicle registration fee waiver for our veterans that have a disability rating of 100, and your disability affects your mobility. For those veterans that like to be outdoors, we have a fishing and hunting license that's offered at a reduced cost, and a state BART pass that's offered at no cost. Tax programs like a disabled veteran property tax exemption, and a business license and tax fee exemption, for those veterans that do have a disability rating. And then there's the different divisions here underneath the Calvet umbrella. We have a division that focuses on our women's veterans and our minority and underrepresented veterans. These divisions provide advocacy, outreach, and support to those individuals. Our home loans program, which you'll hear about today from Brad. And then we have Calvet cemeteries. There's 3 actually here in the state, a 4th one that's in the works in Southern California. I believe it's going to be in Orange County. And then 8 different homes for long-term care all across the state. So specific benefits that you can find a lot more information about in your resource book, or if you want to hit us up afterwards, we could definitely talk about those. Some common websites we want you to be familiar with, not just as a California veteran, but as a veteran in general. VA.gov is going to be kind of like a hub for all your needs, whether it's trying to get enrolled into VA healthcare system, claims and compensation, taking advantage of your education benefits, or even viewing your records. VA.gov is where you're going to go. If you guys were familiar with e-benefits, just know e-benefits has been phased out, and everything that you used to do on e-benefits, now you're going to do here on VA.gov. So always start here, use it as a launching pad. This is what it looks like when you are logged in and signed in. You can check out your messages and go from there. My Healthy Vet is a good website that you can use if you are taking advantage of the VA healthcare system. You can view your records here, communicate with your primary care physician, create appointments with them, and also refill your prescriptions. So if you do want to stay in touch with CalTAP and know more about what we're doing, the kind of outreach that we're getting into for the month, you can always provide your non-DoD email to the CalTAP inbox, caltap@calvet.ca.gov. That's going to put you on a mailing list so that you can receive our monthly newsletters, as well as just be aware of the different webinars and events that are going to go on throughout the month. You can always go to CalVet's homepage and register through My CalVet, just kind of tailor the information from the website to more of your needs. Follow us on our social media pages and attend any webinars. You go to our Eventbrite page, you can find webinar information there. Sign up, get the confirmation email, and attend those. You don't necessarily have to be a student if they are being hosted by a college. And then always you can fill out our survey. So our survey is not necessary, but it does help us make this program better. So if you fill it out, you can let us know what we did well today, what we could work on in the future. And if there's any topics that you want to know about, definitely let us know there. All right, this is what the My CalVet page looks like. Well, actually, if you go to any page on our website, you will find that login register button right there on My CalVet in the corner on each page. And this is what our newsletter looks like. This is actually a outdated version of our newsletter. Our new one looks a little bit more colorful, but this is a basic concept. You're going to get a message from our deputy secretary first. Every month we focus on a new topic. So I believe this month we are focusing on, I want to say mental health, or I'm sorry, no, legal. We're focusing on veterans legal services this month. And next month we will be focusing, I believe, on employment. Could be wrong, but that's pretty much how it goes. Veterans legal services this month. We'll have 2 webinars coming up, one next week and one at the end of the month. That's my contact information. So if you have any questions about what I discussed, or you want to talk a little bit more about what's available to you, feel free to email me. I check my inbox daily. And with that being said, we're going to move on now to Lance Unker. He is your local interagency network coordinator for the San Diego region. And he's going to talk to you about how he works with veterans in that area. So go ahead, Lance, when you're ready.
Yeah, thanks. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Yes. So I am the local interagency network coordinator. I live here in San Diego. Been to Cuyamaca a few times already this year, visiting your Veteran Success Center and all that. But yeah, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about what my role at CalVet is, and then get you Brad so he can talk about the reason you're here. So I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. I was wounded in 2007 real bad during the surge. Spent about 10 months in the hospital, and then was medically retired. And kind of walked through the whole transition. Actually went myself, used GI Bill at a community college, and then got my degree, my bachelor's degree at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, actually. And so I've kind of walked that path, and made a lot of mistakes during the way, but my role now is really to help everyone who has transitioned out or is transitioning out, and continuing that path, and doing what you guys are doing now. So the role as a link, really is to provide outreach for kind of the outreach arm of Veteran Services Division. There's 8 of us that live in the state of California that are not in Sacramento. We're all over the state. like me down in San Diego. I'll get to that link map, I guess, next here, but we do a lot of making referrals. So when veterans come to us or when organizations come to us, we try and link those groups and those veterans together, and we try and get groups working together and basically establish better service care. And when other nonprofits know who else is in different spaces, then the veteran could be better served by them getting referred to all kinds of things. So links also help with local emergencies. So we've had a lot of flooding this year. I've had to go work some disaster recovery centers a little up north in the Central Coast. And that happens during the winter from time to time. We never had flooding this bad. Usually we're not this busy until fire season when we're at all the local assistance centers. But we're there really just to serve veterans who have been impacted by those emergencies. And then we provide leadership and advocacy in the local community. Next slide. Here's the link map. So there's 8 of us. We all have, a different portion of California. This is actually broken up by the FEMA disaster relief zones. You can see that, some of them geographically are much smaller than others, like Cole up in the north. But no matter where you end up landing in California, if you ever move away from the area, you'll always have a link who's dedicated to that region and who's going to get to know all of the players in that region. So the links are a great contact to have, even if they're just, if you just use them to say like, hey, I'm looking to do this or that. Are there any groups that help, or whatever? And there's, in San Diego alone, there's over 300 veteran service providers, and this is everything from like surfing groups of veterans and horse riding and archery groups, to things that assist with, homes and things that assist with, financial emergencies and education and different stuff like that. So sky's really a limit, especially down here in San Diego. Next slide. This kind of just, goes to say that link's also a good contact if you're having issues, connecting to your benefits. So if you're having problems getting a hold of EDD or other departments outside of us, a lot of times the links have contacts. They have contacts, whether it's at EDD or a vet center or VA medical center. A lot of us know our directors in the area, and we can say, hey, got a veteran and such and such is happening. Is there any way to get this process sped up or get some answers? So it's really, really helpful, even in that way. And then I think next is just my contact information. Great idea to jot that down or take a screenshot. You can reach out to me anytime. That email there is kind of the standard SD link. I will get that. A lot of times I'll just throw out my cell phone on the chat as well. That way you can just text me or call if you have anything, but I'll get that going. And I think, am I giving it over to Brad? Perfect.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Great. Thanks, Lance. Appreciate that. Very good resource. Like I mentioned, one of the best resources we have for Calvet, just because they are familiar with the area that you live in and those resources or those programs and services that are available in that area. And yeah, Lance, if you do get a chance, please, I apologize. Should have had that phone number on the slide, but if you want to put it in the chat, feel free to do that. And feel free to use it to those attendees. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass it on now to Brad. Brad Pedersen is the programmer's representative for our CalVets Home Loan Division. Brad, when you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Michael. I want to mention that Lance has a lot of information and a lot of referrals he can make that you may not even think about what you need right now. So he's a good person to have that phone number. It's probably a 1 or 2 minute call for him to tell you who you need to get in contact with for whatever you might need that we don't even know about at this moment. So I would get his phone number later. I send people to him all the time. So I want to go really fast today because I want to cover a lot and I don't want to take a long time. So I want to get to some interesting things that are current and happening right now outside of the normal presentation I might do. So bear with me if I sound like I'm talking fast or skipping anything. It's because I want to get you to the kernels of gold that I don't normally get a chance to talk about, but I want to make sure I get to today. So what I've kind of learned, I've done this for a little while now for Calvet, and I've found that if I give you the history of my department with Calvet, if I give you the history, everything seems to make a little more sense. So let me do the 1-minute history lesson. The year was 1921. And what was happening in 1921 is our service members were all coming home from World War I. Now, the population, the government, everybody was just so patriotic and so excited to greet those service members. It was a very amazing world. And the government of California actually said, hey, what could we do as a government agency above and beyond the federal benefits they're entitled to, above and beyond the federal benefits they've earned? What could we do just as a state to say thank you? So in 1921, they looked at the demographics and they started the California Farm and Home Loan Program. A lot of the people coming back were farmers. Now, if you fast forward to about 1943, that's when my division became one of the branches, just like the military has branches, California Department of Veterans Affairs has branches, and my branch became called Calvet Home Loans. Actually, that's not true. They were Farm and Home Loan for quite a while. But the reason I like to tell this story is because I get to kind of show you backdoor wise that we're over 100 years old. We were started as just a thank you. We're very different. We're very odd. We're a very unique organization. And as I mentioned, we've started with the name Farm and Home Loan, and it now has become Calvet Home Loan. But what I absolutely love is if I were to take you up to our main building across from the Capitol in Sacramento, and I take you to the second floor, to this day, it still says on the door, Farm and Home Loan. And I love that because it points out a few things. One, we've been around a while. We kind of understand the needs of veterans over the decades. But we also have more than one loan. You know, most people seem to think there's either two choices for veterans loans. They can get a federal VA loan or a state Calvet loan. And that's not really true. You see, Calvet offers all kinds of different loan programs. They have the Farm Home Loan Program. That's kind of unusual. We still do a few farm loans, not very often anymore, but we still do some. We have a construction loan program. Now, VA doesn't have that like we have it. It's something that's a little bit different. We do mobile home loans in parks. We do mobile home loans on land in a permanent-like manner. We do rehab loans. We do low-income housing loans. We do refinance. We have all kinds of different programs available to us. Now, some of them we don't use very much. Some of them, I say we put them up on a shelf and we pull them down when we think they might be relevant, or we can switch them around to work for a current problem. We have a lot of options. And I think people don't understand that. But what I really like and want to get across to you is that Calvet Home Loans has many different options, and we're really unique. Our loan officers are, I like to call them benefits officers. They're not commissioned salespeople. They're trained very differently from a loan officer at a lending institution. Their job is to help the veteran, even if that means telling the veteran that they may want to use a different lender for a certain type of program that the other lender has. If you apply for a loan with Calvet and you're not approved, they're trained to give you a path to home ownership, we call it. That means to basically tell somebody, well, here's where you are right now. Here's why I don't think we can get you approved right now. But these are the things I think you need to do to be ready to be successful. A lot of times, just having somebody take the time to explain those things to you makes all the difference in the world. I myself have a number of people who weren't quite ready, and I would give them some type of a path to home ownership. They would fulfill it, and we would approve them, and they would go buy a house. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So one of the things that worries me a lot about being 100 years old is that we actually have so much documentation out there, so many programs that are old, so many enters on the internet where people put things in, but it's changed, or it's no longer relevant, or it's outdated, and it's hard to get that information out there sometimes. We don't have you'll never see us advertising at Super Bowl. You know, we don't have that kind of budget. I'm the only guy that travels for the state of California for Calvet Home Loans. One of the things that really concerns me is at one time, years ago, you had to have entered your service life from the state of California to even be eligible to apply for the CalVet loan. And that's no longer the case. And I really want people to understand this because I'm sure some people are missing the boat. Today, anyone can apply for the CalVet loan regardless of where they entered service, regardless of when they served, regardless of where they served, regardless if they're now a veteran or if they're active duty. Everybody can apply. You have to qualify. We're going to look it over and see if you meet the guidelines. But everybody can apply. And I'm very concerned because we've done some internal checking and we kind of know that about a third of the loans we fund every month, they have been told by at least one lender, if not two or three, no, you're not worthy of a loan today. And we look at it differently and we give them the loan. So I don't want people to miss out. Next slide, please. Okay, so the number one question, I actually get this question literally every week since I've been working for CalVet. I've gotten this question, and it's basically like this: Brad, what's the difference between federal VA and CalVet? Or if we've been talking a little while, they might say, hey, Brad, just tell me the truth. Which is better, the federal VA home loan or the CalVet home loan? And I've answered it so many times that I kind of came up with one answer that seems to resonate with most people. So now whenever I get a chance to talk to any group, I teach them my answer because I'm hoping you will tell other people this information too. Here's what I do, because I always talk with my hands even when I'm on a Zoom. I hold up one hand and I say, look, when we're talking about the federal VA home loan, you need to understand federal VA doesn't actually loan the money. What federal VA does is they issue a loan guarantee to any lender in any city or county in the US that wants to do that. That's sort of like an insurance policy that they'll give to any lender to protect them in the event that the veteran borrower defaults. Now, I want to stop right here and make it really clear. I love the federal VA home loan program. It is a fantastic program. Everybody should put that in what I call your toolbox of purchasing or refinancing the rest of your life. You should always take a look at that and consider it whenever you're thinking of buying or selling or refinancing. It's a great program. Now, with that being said, who's CalVet? Well, I gave you the 1 minute history. CalVet is actually the state of California acting as a lender. And we have many different types of loans that we've come up with over the last 100 years to help veterans get into housing. But my favorite loan that nobody seems to really understand or believe we can do this very unique thing that only CalVet can do. Nobody else can do this. We can take your federal VA home loan benefit that you've earned, that I think is a fantastic loan, and we can fund it through the state of California. Now, when we do that, two things happen. Your federal and your state benefits get mixed into one loan. It makes that loan very powerful and very flexible. We're getting like kind of the best of both worlds into one loan. For many people, it's amazing the change and what happens when we are able to put those two together. Next slide, please. Usually whenever I'm talking, people will say, well, what's different? Why would I like it? And I usually talk, if I'm talking a long time, about this bucket of benefits. I call it a bucket of benefits the state of California has put together for you. I usually try to be honest and say, I believe they're trying to bribe you to stay in California. They're saying, hey, here's a bucket of benefits. I think you should stay here. And there's a bunch of stuff in there that's very valuable. Now, it's not valuable to everybody. Maybe if you're buying in San Diego, it wouldn't be the same value as if you were buying in Lake Tahoe. You know, depending on what you're doing, which benefit in there may be different. But one benefit that I think is really important to everybody is how we actually underwrite, how we actually pre-approve your loan, because we're different. We're unique. Again, 99, 98, 99.5% of all lenders probably do the exact same thing. They take a 1003 loan application. It's a standard loan application form. It's 8 pages. They have you fill that out. and then you submit it to the lender, and then the lender types it into the computer, and then the lender hits enter. Now, the computer will run that application through the processes, reviews, and checks. And at the end, it issues something that's commonly called in the business a desktop underwriting decision. Now, a lot of times I'll get a call and I'll know that probably my veteran caller went through this process and wasn't successful, because they'll start off the conversation and say something like, "Hey, Brad, what's your minimum FICO score at Calvet?" And I get to say something fun. You see, most lenders are looking today for a FICO score of about 620. So if your score's under that, they may just not be really interested in working with you. I get to say Calvet doesn't have a minimum FICO score. We don't have a minimum where we're just going to say we don't want to work with you. No, we do this whole process very differently. The computer doesn't make the decision. A human being will actually talk to you. They'll actually open up your application. They'll actually open up your credit report. They'll look through it. And if you've been a loan officer for any time, you can look at a credit report pretty quickly and go, oh, something happened like 3 years ago. There's some kind of credit event. Something in your life changed. What happened that your credit went like this? And you can tell them, you say, well, you know, I got sick. I broke my leg. I was in the hospital. I had an operation. I lost my job. I went through a divorce. That's a big one. The loan officer is going to look at how you've handled credit after that credit event. I like to think of it as like you came up against an obstacle. Did you get over the obstacle, and are you running again? If you were able to show them that, yes, I had a problem, but look, even though my score doesn't represent this, the last 12 months, I've made all my consumer credit report debts on time. I paid everything on time. For us, generally 12 months could be acceptable credit. Even if you have a 568 FICO, we might say that's still okay because you've showed us that you figured it out. Usually, if I see 24 months of all your consumer credit being paid on time, I'll consider that almost excellent credit. I don't care so much about the score. I want to know how you handle your responsibilities. How fiscally responsible are you? Do you make your payments? We're going to look at that. We're also going to look at some common sense issues. We're going to look at how much you've been paying rent and compare that to what the new house payment will be. You know, today, some people are paying in rent almost what they'll pay to purchase. That can happen in certain areas. And it's not a very hard one for us to figure out that if they've been paying $2,600 a month rent, they probably can afford $2,700 a month in a home payment. Next slide, please. Another unique thing that Calvet does that I think I should mention is we handle foreclosures, short sales, or even properties that you currently own with a VA loan. For instance, maybe you have a condo on the East Coast that you're renting out, or maybe you're living in a house right now and you want to buy another home, but you want to use your VA home loan. Now, if you've had a short sale or a foreclosure, or you have an active in-use VA loan, this is basically what would happen if you went to the bank on the corner. You would walk in and they would look at your certificate of eligibility entitlement. They would figure out from that, doing some weird math, how much of that insurance policy I talked about is still available. You see, most people don't realize a lot of times they buy a home, but they still have a little bit of what we call entitlement left, partial entitlement. And so with that partial entitlement, they could go out sometimes, it's always one-on-one, sometimes, and buy a home. So let's just, for round numbers, say the bank looks at it. This happens a lot. They'll look at it and they'll say, based on your remaining partial entitlement, if you qualify, it looks like we could issue a $400,000 VA home loan with zero down if you qualify. And I find almost always my veterans say the same thing. Oh, I wanted a $500,000 house. What can you do for me? And they have a good answer. They basically just say, look, the differential between the 400,000 and the 500,000, just that 100,000 differential, we need 25% down on that portion. So in that scenario, it would be a $25,000 down payment requirement on a $500,000 purchase, which isn't horrible financing. It's just not what my veterans are normally looking for. That's where I love what the state does. We look at this problem a little differently. We open up again the application, we look at the application, we look at the merits of the application. We basically ask ourselves this question: are they going to default? Do we think this is a good loan? Do we think that we're protected? Do we think that we can take this to our investor board someday and say, we thought this was a good loan and this is why? Many, many, many times, we'll go ahead and we'll fill the gap. We'll stand in the gap for federal VA, and we'll issue a $500,000 zero down VA calvet/loan put together and get that borrower into that property. We do that a lot. That can be a huge difference for many people trying to buy their second home or a home after short sale or foreclosure. Next slide, please. How much do we loan? Well, you can see on the slide, we'll go up to $1,361,000 with zero down if you qualify. Next slide, please. I think it's even more interesting to look at the low number. We'll go up to $907,750 in any county, anywhere in California. We'll go up that high with zero down. And I find that number catches probably 95% of our veterans. 900's enough. You know, we do some $1 million loans, but you know what I mean? That's a pretty big number. In San Diego, we'll go up to $1,221,000 with zero down if you can qualify. Next slide, please. My favorite thing to talk about in general, if we were just chatting, would be all the unique things that Calvet does for their clients that most lenders won't do or can't take the time to do. And I'm trying to go fast, so I think I have a letter here. Next slide, please. So this is a letter. And this is basically a common letter for us. This is very common for us, especially when anytime interest rates change drastically, or like when COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I had a person call me and they said, Brad, we were approved. We were ready to close escrow. We're supposed to move in less than a month. I've released my deposit, $6,000 non-refundable. They were in San Diego, by the way. I paid all the fees, I've done everything, but now they moved the goalposts. They told me I need to have a 660 FICO. I don't have it. We don't know what we're going to do. Now, that was an easy fix for us. It really was, because it was a good loan. It was already approved by another lender. It was fine. There was no real issue. They just changed things on them. We are often able to fix problem loans. We are often able to fix problem loans for other lenders. As a matter of fact, I encourage you, if you have a friend, you know somebody in another state that's having trouble with their VA loan process, even though I'm not going to do the loan, I would love to help them fix their problem. A lot of times it's just misunderstanding, and a lot of lenders don't specialize in VA financing. They get a little tripped up on something very small, and it's sometimes just a quick conversation with the lender or the veteran, and I can help them get their loan closed in Tennessee. And we don't mind. I want to help every veteran anywhere in the world. Now, this letter, getting back to it, this is really common, especially since interest rates went crazy. They were told they were all approved, I believe, and I didn't really read it through it, but I think that they were told by the system they were no longer approved. That desktop underwriting system I talked about. They were told they were approved. Now they're getting ready to move. They've given notice. They've done everything. And now they're told they're not approved. This was also a situation where there was like this one sells and then this one sells and this one sells. So they had to all move into a line. And there was a lot of pressure because if one didn't go, then the others couldn't go. And there was penalties. And so they contacted us and they said, you know, can you help us? And I think in the letter, we were able from the day we got the package to close it in 14 days, which is pretty fast for a lender. We just recently broke a record and closed one in 4 days. We already had a full package. They had gone all the way to the end, and then the lender played some games with them, and they just said, we'll go with Calvet. They came back to us and we closed in 4 days, which is amazing. I would say normally we're looking at 30 days, but if there's an emergency, we pull out all the stops and do everything we can to get that veteran in. Next slide, please. So I'm going quick, but I probably need to tell you about one of the biggest benefits at Calvet that I've learned more and more and more about as I've been here longer. I'm not an insurance expert, but I also have learned I have to tell you this. You can only have the home insurance that goes with a Calvet loan if you fund your loan through Calvet. I get lots of people after I talk saying, can I transfer my insurance company to Calvet? And I'm with another lender. No, you can't. Only if you're with Calvet now. The reason you'd want the insurance policy is it's actually sort of an old-fashioned policy. The deductibles are still $250 total deductible for hazard insurance, $250 for fire insurance, $500 deductible for flood insurance, and $500 or 5% for earthquake, which is unheard of. But more importantly than that, I learned when we had the Paradise fires a couple years back, where all those homes overnight were burnt down. We lost 26 homes in that fire. All of our homes were rebuilt for $250. Many people woke up that morning and found out they were actually underinsured, because what happened is the price of construction tripled. The price of materials and labor just went through the roof. I actually had the pleasure of meeting somebody, a very nice guy. He was one of those firehouse victims. He said, Brad, I paid like $320 for my house. They paid over $700,000 to rebuild it because that's what it cost. And he said, I kept the receipts. And that's an amazing extra benefit that I don't know how to explain to somebody, but when your back's against the wall, boy, you're going to love having that insurance. Next slide, please. Oh, and this is kind of a fun. So these are emails that I sort of stole. I saw these and I said, oh my God, I need to show that to audiences because it explains something that I can't explain. The next series, I think there's 4 emails, are a series of emails that show 3 branches of Calvet working together to help a veteran in need. And what's really important to me is if you look at the timestamps. At the top, this first letter is at 9:22 in the morning. It was August 17th, 2021. It was on the TV, the Grizzly Flats area fires. And this was a veteran. And he said, hey, we were evacuated from my home. I'm afraid we're homeless. It's my wife, myself, my 89-year-old mother, and my 4-year-old child. And when I first saw this email, I just related with it because my mom's actually 88. And I've been to these disaster relief places. It's like a high school gym typically, and they've got some cots on one side and then some white tables with like, you know, plastic water bottles and packaged muffins and stuff. And they're sitting there, and I'm sure this guy's sitting there going, what am I going to do? He says, I don't know what I can do. So he sends this off to Lance's co-part in Northern California. His name is Cole Wagner at 9:22 in the morning. Next slide, please. And so Cole gets it and he responds. Now, I think he was copying and pasting and sending this to a lot of people. I took the name and changed it, but he said, hey, if you need a safe place to go, immediately there's the evacuation center. He said, once you're in a safe place, here's the 2 insurance numbers for Calvet. Also, here's some resources from the county that might help you if you need everything. But then you notice at the bottom, he says, hey, I'm going to call your phone after I send this to talk it through. And I think he's doing this because, number one, sometimes phone reception's really bad at those places. And so he's doing both. That was at 10:01. Next slide, please. It's 10:17, and Cole now, the Lance's partner, is writing the manager of the home protection unit for Calvet. And he says, hey, Steve, just a heads up. I spoke to this veteran. He and his family are safe, but we think they lost their house in the fire last night. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to help. That's at 10:17. Next slide, please. And now it's 11:01, so about 2 hours from the beginning. This is Gary Bonin. He's the loan production operation manager. He's sort of the guy that's on top of all those divisions looking down, and he's sending Cole an email, and he says, hey, Cole, Steve, the manager from the home protection unit, has been in touch with the veteran. Calvet will provide him housing as long as he's evacuated. If his home's a total loss, we'll be with him every step of the way. Thanks for the heads up. Now, when I read those, the reason it kind of got to me is I thought, what if I was that guy, right? Sitting in a high school gym. How would I feel within 2 hours? I went from, I think we're homeless, to hearing we're going to be housed and they're going to take care of us every step of the way, which I'm sure they did. That's very unique in today's world. One thing I love about our insurance division is they, to this day, whenever there's a big fire anywhere, they usually try to go out about 2 to 5 miles and call any of our veterans in the area, in the way, and to tell them, you know, where you should go, here are the resources, what you should take, just to kind of prepare them in case they have to go. And I think that's a great little service they do. Next slide, please. Okay, let's talk about some fun stuff. The market's crazy. The interest rates are crazy. They're like this. If you're out there, if you watch, I watch every day. I'm watching them, and they're changing, and everybody's, you know, going, oh, we're going this way. Oh, we're going that way. Everything's going to happen. We went up today. We were down yesterday and the day before. It's just changing. And whenever that happens, a lot of new programs start coming out to try and help. I've actually been on the phone with the city of Oceanside, Fresno. I talked to a lot of the different cities about the programs they're bringing out. I had a call yesterday where I was discussing, I think we need to do some kind of statewide call and try to help bring everybody together with some ideas. I'm going to be working on that. But I want to tell you about some unique programs that could help you that are time relevant. A lot of these programs are just getting launched. As a matter of fact, the first one I'll tell you about is called the WISH grant, W-I-S-H grant. You can Google it. The WISH grant just got approved a few days ago. I think they've listed 29 banks. Calvet's not one of them. This is about other people. But you're welcome to call me about it. They've listed, I think, 29 banks that are approved to do the WISH grant. Now, if you qualify for the WISH grant, they're basically going to say, have you owned a home in the last 3 years? And they're going to look at your income to see if you're about 80% of the adjusted median income of the area you're living in. Don't ever assume you make too much money. Call them and apply and let them look at it, because they have weird ways of looking at this stuff. I want you to try and get this money. What the WISH grant does is it says, look, for every dollar you save, and this is for non-veterans too, anyone can apply for this. For every dollar you save up to roughly, they did a weird number, but let's call it $7,250. They will match it 4 to 1. So they'll give you a WISH grant for approximately $29,000 if you've saved about $7,250. The actual number is like 29,027 or something, but we're rounding. That grant of $29,000 after 5 years is forgiven. It's just free money to use towards buying a home. This is an excellent opportunity. Even if you have a VA home loan, go, well, I don't need a down payment. Hey, you can use it for closing costs, and you could use part of it to lower your mortgage, right? So you'd have a smaller mortgage. It's free money. You want to check into it. The WISH grant also can often be stacked, added to other programs. As a matter of fact, last year, at least 2 of the big lenders who were on the list, I think it was Chase and Union Bank, they were offering their own little incentive because they were, you know, they want to get the clients. So they were saying, look, if you come to us and use the WISH grant, you may also get a first-time buyer's grant or a veteran's grant. They were like for $3,000 or $5,000, they were offering extra stuff. And so I say that because not everybody on that list is probably going to have the exact program. Some of them might be offering a little extra. So it might be worth making a few calls and seeing who you really like and which one you think has the best grant program for you. There's other grant programs out there. One that's often not even asked about or known about is through the California Association of Realtors. Now, this is like scholarship money, sort of, right? You guys are in college, you kind of maybe understand that. It makes more sense. You have to ask your realtor for an application for the California Association of Realtors grant. You have to fill it out. Then they have to pick you. They have to say they choose you. But it's for 10 grand. If you get it, you can put it towards closing costs or purchase price, and it's free money. Why not apply? Your realtor may not even know about the program because they're so busy doing their job that they can't keep up on all this stuff, but they can actually go and download the form online, and then they sponsor you for this program. Recommended. Another program that is actually my favorite program in general is called a mortgage assistance program. And that program, I'd like everyone who's interested in buying a home to call the county in the city that they're thinking of buying in and saying, hey, do you have any down payment assistance type programs? That opens the door for them to tell you about all their programs they have. I know Oceanside is considering releasing one. I talked to them. San Diego, El Cajon, they have websites saying that they have these programs. These people who run the programs don't necessarily go searching too hard for you. You need to call them and ask, do they have something? And then I also would like you to ask whenever you talk to city or county official about that, say, hey, by the way, is this open to a veteran coming from anywhere? I want that to be asked so many times that from now on, it just gets written in every one of these programs. And I think in a couple of years, that will become the new norm. I think it should be. And I think if you help me, we'll get that done. So that's down payment assistance program. There's another program that just launched a couple days ago. I'm kind of excited about it, but I don't know. I have some, I got to look at it a little closer, and you'll need to look at it closer. So I'm telling you that in advance. But the concept sort of works for me. Here's what it is. It's called the California Dream for All Home Equity Sharing Program through CalHFA, CalHFA. And basically the way the program works basically is like this. They say, look, if you can't quite get the house you want, we'll loan you, if you qualify, up to 20% of the purchase price. So let's use an example. You want a $500,000 home, but you can't afford it. They'll loan you 20% or $100,000. You'll get a loan for $400,000, which hopefully you can afford. And then you'll pay the taxes and the insurance. I want everyone to realize that you'll pay the taxes and insurance on the whole 100%, the whole purchase price. But you will own the house, and you will get to occupy and live in the house as long as you want. Now, someday when you sell, they're going to want their 100,000 or 20% back, and they're going to want somewhere between 15 and 20% of the appreciation, the amount of money you made in general on the whole purchase. They figure their 20%, whatever you made, they should get 20% or 15% of that. It's based on income. There's also some factors that if you made, $1 million, they're not going to take the 20% of $1 million. They limit it at some point. Interesting program, equity share. I'd love to talk to any of you about it. I'd love to hear your experience if you apply for it, how it goes. CalHFA is a great organization. I like working with them. I know the people over there. And I think this is something that could make somebody a homeowner that didn't think they could quite be a homeowner. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. So it's so easy. If you want help, you want to apply for a Calvet loan, you just go to our webpage, Calvet Home Loans. There's lots of interesting information, but at the bottom, there's a little button that says apply now. If you click on that, next slide, please, you get this very simple. This is not hard. This will take you less than 2 minutes to fill out. You'll fill this out, and it's really just telling them, hey, I want someone to call me and talk. You'll fill it out. You'll hit submit. You'll get an automatic response. It'll say, hey, thanks for applying for your Calvet loan. Someone's going to reach out to you within 48 hours. They usually call and email. And when they call, and by the way, they don't do it on the weekend, so it's weekdays. But when they call, they'll usually have a little conversation with you, what you're trying to accomplish, what are your questions, and then they'll send you a secure link so that you can upload your documents to them securely. Usually they want to see your DD-214 or a statement of service if you're active. They'll want to see how you get income, if you have award letters, if you have pay stubs, whatever. And they'll want to see 2 months bank statements, all the pages, which is annoying because the last page is invariably just an address. But they have, if it says page 8 of 8, they got to have page 8 of 8. They'll want 2 months. Usually with that, they're pretty much ready to go, and they'll issue you a letter that'll say you've been pre-approved for X amount of dollars by the state of California. Please have your realtor give us a call, and we'll go over the details with them. It's a very simple process. It happens much quicker than most people think. it is individual, and some people have individual questions. What I really like about the process is sometimes you're not quite ready, and you can say, hey, I'm not quite ready. Can you tell me what I need to do? And they'll have that 8-minute conversation with you. They'll say, oh, I see, here's what you're going to need to do. And it's very valuable. Now, I want you also to know that you are welcome to call me and talk about whatever you're concerned about what scenario you want to go, that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm welcome to talking. I do do a lot of talking, but the good news on that is a lot of times I'm on the road for 2 hours and I don't mind your calls at all while I'm driving. So feel free to call me. Next slide, please. Here's how we are in the book, which we are revamping, and I just literally looked at this last night a little bit, and we're going to probably update some of the information. The market, the world is changing. Things are actually getting easier in some ways to get a loan. Unfortunately, the cost of houses are very expensive. I have nothing to do with that, and I have nothing to do really with the interest rates. But these programs are coming out that are trying to give you a chance to get in. Next slide, please. This is my contact information. The 916 is actually just the cell phone that I just shut off. You're welcome to call me on the cell. You're welcome to give that number directly out. Just say, I got a friend at the state. Here's his direct number. Why don't you give him a call? You don't need to email me or call me and ask if it's okay. You've got my permission in advance. I would recommend that you realize my name is spelled with all E's. It's only important in that if you try to email me and you put an O in, I don't get it. So notice that too. Hey, thanks for letting me talk. I wish you all the best and success, and you're on the right path. You'll get there. Thanks, Michael.
All right. Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. Great information, great program. If you are in the market or are thinking about it anytime soon, definitely reach out to Brad. All right. Looks like we're in the home stretch of our day today. So move on to the questions and answers portion. Like I said, I bring up our contact information. So if you have any questions afterwards, after we're done, and you want to reach out to any one of us, feel free to take a picture of the slide or write down our email addresses and reach out when you can. I'll bring Sean in on this one. It doesn't look like we have any questions, but Sean, was there anything that you saw that I didn't along the way?
No, sir. There were no questions along the way.
Okay. We'll keep that open just for a couple minutes more while we move on to the next slide. If you do have any questions for either one of the presenters, please feel free to put them in that questions and answers portion of Zoom. This is just a slide that shows some of the upcoming webinars that we have come for the month of April. I mentioned earlier that we are focusing on veteran legal services this month. So on the 20th, we will have a webinar focused on family law. And on the 27th, we will have one focused on discharge upgrades. Also on the 26th, we will have, I believe it's going to be Bergman and Moore, a legal firm that's going to come in and talk about the PAC Act. And then the other ones will just be webinars that those schools had requested. You do not need to be a student to attend those webinars. You can simply go to our Eventbrite page and register right there. Your confirmation email will have the meeting information in it so that you can attend whenever that day comes around. Looking back up, I do see we have one question. It says, is it possible to have a VA federal loan active and apply for a CalVet loan for purchase of a second home or family? Brad, that looks like it's going to be going to you.
Yeah, so it is a possibility. There's a couple of possibilities. Probably the best possibility would be to apply for a CalVet loan and for us to look at what's remaining on that partial entitlement that I talked about. So it's one of those things we need to investigate to see what's best for you, but it's definitely possible. You would be moving into a new home though. You've got to leave your old home rented out and move into the new house.
Yeah, so it looks like it's a case-by-case basis
It's a probable. I just don't want people to misinterpret that it's definitely you can, because I got to look at paperwork and see.
All right. Well, again, that's Brad's email address. So if you did have a specific question and you wanted to reach out after the presentation, feel free to email him. I have one more that says, do you have collateral? Do you have collateral for real estate agents to share all of these fabulous benefits?
Collateral, does that mean like paperwork or something? I have like a flyer, and I teach classes to realtors, and I go to real estate groups, especially those that represent veterans, and do a much longer presentation where we go into the details of underwriting and what we need to do. And if you have a realtor that you think this would be a benefit to, have them call me. A lot of times I'll just talk with a realtor and give them a few things that are really going to help their career, just that they may not have known, you know, because this is what I do. So they're welcome to call me if you have a friend or anything.
So we had another question come up as well. It's specifically about how do I use Calvet to fund a VA loan?
So calvet is a lender. VA issues a loan guarantee. All you'll do is apply for a calvet loan. We are going to default to trying to get you the best program automatically, which in my opinion is probably for almost everybody, where we take your federal VA and we fund it through the state of California. So we will order with your DD-214 on that submission that we talked about when you apply. We'll order the certificate of eligibility entitlement. We'll go over it. We'll look and see what your eligibility is, and we'll approve you. You know, hopefully we'll be able to approve you. Sometimes maybe we have to give you a path to home ownership. I don't know. You'll have to apply.
All right. It looks like that was the last question, and we are at the 2 o'clock hour. So we'll go ahead and move on. If you did have any more questions for either one of the presenters, me, Lance, or Brad, feel free to reach out. Sean can also answer questions as well. Told you about our upcoming webinars. Simply go to our Eventbrite page to register. Again, this is our survey. I mentioned this earlier. It's not necessary to fill out today, but if you did want to fill it out and let us know what we did well today, what you think we could work on in the future, or if there's any other topics that you want to know about, feel free to scan that QR code and fill the survey out, and give us your opinion. Again, thank you for being here. And a special thank you to Cuyamaca College for having us today. If you have any questions, feel free to give that 1-800 number a call. Someone like me, Lance, or Sean, or either one of the training coordinators and links can answer that phone and answer your questions. Also, our CalTAP email address is there. It is checked daily, so please feel free to reach out whichever way you feel comfortable. Again, thank you for your time, and we will see you at the next one.